Okay, let's see who's here. Okay, Sally, his excuse today. Max here. Elliot here. Crampton, excuse. Jaylian here. Nico, I think he's on a meet. Val here. Andrew. Tom. Olivia. McDaniel here. Mobley excuse. Hannah excuse. Brandon here. And Dallas here. Okay. Oof. I am a little bit kind of spaced out, guys, so bear with me. I got really sick last Thursday and Friday. Then I had my 3 shots on Sunday. I couldn't get the appointment on a different day. I had my updated COVID, flu, and the pneumonia shots. So my left arm doesn't exist, kind of. We're gonna talk about Chapter 8, transaction exposure. There are actually 3 different kinds of exposures. To foreign currency prices or foreign exchange rates. The first one is transaction exposure. This is, as the name suggests, exposure that is due to actual transactions of the firm, such as imports, exports, loans or investments in foreign currencies. A lot of you may not know, there's always a delay between the actual agreement to import and export something that when you get the payment. It's typically anywhere between 3 months to 6 months. So even though you shipped everything, it arrived Japan, and they owe you 1 billion yen, you're not going to get that 1 billion yen, for at least 3 months typically. Or sometimes, in order to finance your investments, you borrow in foreign currencies. Could be cheaper to borrow in those currencies. or it may be easily available. The second type of exposure is called economic exposure. This is the effect on the firm due to changes in exchange rates, even without any transaction exposure. We talked about this kind of exposure in the beginning of the class to kind of motivate why we think we should treat international finance as a kind of a separate field. Even if you're a firm that has no foreign currency business, you don't import, you don't export, all your workers are in the United States, all your inputs are from US sources, and you only sell to US, you don't even know what Japanese yen looks like. But you're still affected. You may still be affected by foreign currency fluctuations, since they affect economic competitiveness or competitiveness of foreign players in your area, in your business. So even if you produce bike in Kentucky, sell it in Kentucky, you don't export any raw materials, you don't import any raw materials, export anywhere. You know, it's obvious that Japanese are also making bikes, or the Chinese are also making bikes. If suddenly Japanese yen is weaker, they will be more competitive in the United States market. That means you're going to have to compete with a company that can sell these at a lower price. Depreciation of foreign currencies make exporters of that country more competitive. Hence, you may not be able to obtain the same price for your sales. So you suddenly may have to sell that bike $10 cheaper compared to before. And the third one is called translation exposure. The first two are real risks. Obviously transaction exposure is real risk until you get those currencies or you pay those currencies. If you're obligated, what happens to the exchange rate does affect your bottom line. Economic exposure is also real risk because of the changes in exchange rates. Your competitive environment changes, so that creates an impact on your bottom line. Even though measurement of economic exposure is not as easy as measurement of transaction exposure, at least we have some means to deal with it. Translation exposure is primarily for multinational companies who has wholly or partially owned subsidiaries in foreign countries, and they have to consolidate they have to consolidate their financial statements. If I'm Amazon, and I also have a subsidiary in Japan, Amazon Japan. When I'm reporting my results in US, I have to consolidate. That means for my balance sheet, I'm going to take the balance sheet of Amazon US, I'm going to take the balance sheet of Amazon Japan and add them up. But the financial statements in Japan are in Japanese yen. So what I have to do is I have to translate them into US dollars. Sometimes those numbers are going to change, not because I lost money in Japan, but Japanese yen have depreciated. Sometimes you end up losing money simply because your foreign assets are translated into US dollars at a lower rate. So if yen loses value, if you have an asset that's valued at let's say at 1 billion yen, that's not going to be worth as much in US dollar terms. Translation exposure is the kind of least consequential of exposures, as they rarely have a direct effect on company bottom line, except through income statements. But most of the transaction exposure actually comes from translation of the balance sheets. Any losses due to translation of foreign currency assets are typically reported in what we call comprehensive income statements, part of shareholders' equity statements. For example, let's go get the